And it's Ken Kraetzer for Sons of the American Legion Radio. And I'm at Michie Stadium, West Point, and Sam Houston is in Huntsville, Alabama. And Sam, we saw a game we did not expect, a shootout. Army gave up 70 points. They scored 56, but boy, did they totally not able to stop a very good Wake Forest offensive team, and I think we could have put Sam Hartman in the Heisman discussion today by his performance. What'd you see?
Reminded me of watching film of the old days of football when they first introduced the forward pass, and you'd have defenses that didn't know how to defend against the forward pass because Army defense, they looked like they had never defended the forward pass, and the slow mesh quarterback, running back, read option that Wake Forest would run completely gave the Army defense fits in their own defensive reads and reactions to the plays. Coming into the game, I never would have thought that this would have been possible, that Army's defense could be lit up for that many points, to have that many touchdown plays of 40 yards or more. I think there were 7 touchdown plays Wake Forest ran of 40 yards or more. And, Wake Forest has lit up a few teams this year, but none of those teams had a defense statistically as good as how Army has played this season. So it did not make any sense for Army's defense to have the absolute collapse that they did from start to finish. On the offense side of the ball, if you flip the script on the second half and you make Wake Forest the team that turned the ball over twice, Army would have scored 70 points, because flipping the script, Wake Forest pretty much looked like they had never defended against the triple option or the pass plays the triple option can produce when it's run correctly. And unlike last week, the offenses who showed up, obviously having done their homework and prepared to face the Wake Forest team. It was their most prolific offensive performance of the season for Army, 56 points. And in our huddle earlier this week, I told you that Army's formula to success would be to win the time of possession with 40 plus minutes. Okay, they did that. To finish drives with touchdowns, they did that, except for one drive in the first half. And but it was even with Wake Forest, because Wake Forest had one drive in the first half where they didn't score. They turned the ball over on downs. But in the second half, I said they need to stop Wake Forest twice in each half. And Army needs to finish their drives with touchdowns and not turn the ball over. And what ended up happening was, on offense, is that it was Army who finished every drive but 2 with a touchdown. And the 2 they did not finish the drive with a touchdown. One was the 4th down fake punt that the player was wide open. The pass was just a lob that was slow to develop and gave the defender time to react. And, that was a 14-point swing, because if Army completes that pass, it's a touchdown for Army, or at least a first down to keep the drive going. So it's 7 points for Army. But instead, it was 7 points for Wake Forest, because we saw it was a pick six. And then the second time was in the fourth quarter, when Army once again had something they were having a problem with, and that was the quarterback B-back mesh. And Tyler had fumbled earlier in the game with a mesh issue that he had with Anthony Atkins. And then we had Jabari Laws on a very promising drive in Wake Forest territory, lost the ball on the quarterback B-back mesh, this time with Cade Barnard. And in this case, Wake Forest recovered the ball, and Wake Forest went on to score a touchdown on that drive. And so that proved to be the difference. But if you flip the script in the second half, and an Army just twice had been able to make a stop or force a turnover, it would have been Army 70 and Wake Forest 56. But as it is, coulda, woulda, shoulda. I'm sure that Nate Woody is he's probably already up in his hideout study area and trying to figure out how in the world this happened and how to make sure that this never happens again as they get ready now for Air Force.
Yeah, it's one of those things because in basketball, you watch coaches have to stop another team when they're on a run, getting 10, 15 points in a row, and you got to slow them down. And, it's sort of that situation in football where the opposing team is getting points quickly and they're throwing the ball over your head. And you can't really find a way to stop it. I'd have to look at the film too to see what happened. But sometimes you have faster athletes on one team than the other that can outrun you, can outrun to get to the ball. But to me, the game got out of hand with the fake punt that became a disaster. I mean, it's 2 weeks in a row Army had a disaster play. That really determined the game.
I thought that moment was going to be the dagger, but to Army's credit, they came right back. They ran and
Anthony Atkins comes back with a 71-yard run.
And I was Steve Shalhoub and I both made the astute observation about that particular play, and it is something that we've been clamoring for, and we actually talked a whole bunch about this past week. That was an actual fullback trap play that we had not seen run hardly at all this season. I'm going to tell you something. Brent Davis called a good game. Unlike last week, where it just seemed like it was so vanilla and so generic, by golly, this week, they rolled out a whole bunch of plays that Steve Shalhoub and I have been talking about for the longest time. They were running the slot back counter to great effect. Yeah. And let me tell you something. You saw how good of a runner Tyrell Robinson is on the inside when he was doing the slot back counter. They were running B-back traps. They were running a lot of pitch plays. And I'm going to tell you what, a lot more of the pitch plays would have worked if the quarterback had actually pitched the ball. There were a few times, especially in the second half, when Jabari Laws was in full time, where he was hesitant. He had the pitch man wide open and instead chose to keep it. And that little indecision, changed the play from a 1-yard gain to from what could have been an 8 or 9 yard gain to like a 1 yard gain or a 0 gain. But anyway, to back up, I thought
Tyrell had a good game, 98 yards on 11 carries.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's a playmaker. And Isaiah Alston, playmaker. And he finally got a moment to shine. But, I thought that pick six was the dagger. I even told Steve that it was the dagger. I didn't believe at that point that the game could be brought back into reach. But when Army responded within just seconds to score and come back into a one-score game, it was a manageable game that could have been tied very easily in the fourth quarter if the defense had just been able to get one stop, which they could not do. And when the real dagger for Army that eliminated any possibility whatsoever that they would come back and tie the game, period, was the the quarterback B-back mesh fumble inside Wake Forest territory with less than 5 to go in the fourth quarter that Wake Forest recovered, because Wake Forest quickly scored thereafter and went up by 2 scores. And at that point, the outcome was moved. It was too late. And, much like last week, the last time Army had the ball, they went down on an incredible drive. And this week, the same thing, that incredible drive, incredible plays by Isaiah Alston. Jabari Laws was throwing lasers. And Wake Forest found out that Alston, he's a world-class wide receiver. And if you put him in man coverage, he's going to beat you. And he did repeatedly in the second half today. And So there was a lot of positive to look at, but my goodness, the game itself from a defensive standpoint was,
Oh,
if you like defense, today was an F minus, and I mean an F minus. I mean, I've never seen a game like that. It
well,
was the highest scoring game in Michie Stadium history. It was only the second time that Army has had 70 points or more scored against them. The last time being a 77-7 drubbing by Nebraska back in 1972. And but the asterisk on the story is that the difference of the game really was in the second half. It was the 2 turnovers. That was the difference. Flip that script, and it would have been Army with 70, and Wake Forest would have gone home the loser.
I think it was a little early for Army to have really taken a big chance on a fake punt, because even a field goal there would have made it a 4-point game. And the way it was being a shootout, I mean, you're within a score. And again, you're saying, can't this defense make one stop like they made 3 in the second half against Wisconsin? And
yeah,
I thought that was, I would have loved just to seen Tally kick the field goal and be only down 4 points with 20 minutes, the quarter and a half to play. With 6 minutes left in the third quarter at that point.
I hear you. And hindsight is always 2020, as we know. The play itself, though, it was a good play, and the player, the Army tight end who ran the pattern, was initially absolutely wide open. And Cade Ballard, who threw the pass, Cade in the past has, when he's actually been on the field and he's thrown the ball, he's done so with great accuracy.
Cade's a good thrower.
But for some reason, he was lazy on the throw. And when I say lazy, it means he released late. He had a slow delivery, and he lofted the ball instead of throwing a dart. And the credit the Wake Forest defender. The Wake Forest defender saw the open receiver, read the quarterback, broke contact with the player he was covering, covered the distance because the lazy pass gave him time to do that, and intercepted the pass, and the rest was history. But the play itself, had it been executed properly, it would have been a first down, probably a touchdown all day long. He was that wide open.
Well, that's what Coach Munkin said in the postgame, is that they had practiced the play. And, sometimes maybe they were looking for a chance to use it. Cade Ballard hasn't played much this year. So, I think it's a lot to ask. It's a very high risk. You're hoping it's high risk, high reward. But in this case, it created a real disaster. I just would have liked to see Tally kick the field goal and be down 4 with 6 minutes to go in the third quarter, and give your defense some real incentive to make a stop. But it didn't happen. But the good thing is Army's offense kept answering, and Jabari Laws had a terrific game passing. He was 9 of 11, 140 yards, 3 touchdowns, and Christian Anderson was 1 out of 1. So the position was 10 out of 12 for 179 yards. And, running the ball, Tyree Tyler had 104 yards and a touchdown. Tyrell had 98 yards. Anthony Atkins, 93. Army had 431 gross yards rushing on the day, which I'm trying to remember the last time they were over 400 yards. The problem was what they gave up to Wake Forest. Wake Forest rushing 180 yards and passing 458 yards.
Yeah.
23 to 29. I mean, Hartman has got to, I think Hartman's got to be in the Heisman. If Wake keeps on winning, he's got to be in the Heisman discussion this year, especially if they, get move on in the ACC. So we'll see. But what a touch!
He increased his stock today. I mean, he definitely increased his stock today. But the scenario for him was a perfect storm. Army, other than the very first drive that Wake Forest ran, Army did not even lay a hand on the Wake Forest quarterback. Didn't even put any pressure on him whatsoever. Now, some will argue that there were a few more. It was another week where there were a few missed holding calls, and I do believe that that's true. Army opposing offenses have not been flagged for holding one time this season on passing downs for the Army defenders, and I find that absolutely unbelievable. It's almost statistically impossible that we're 7 games into the season and not once has an opposing team been called for holding on a passing play against Army's defenders, especially with Andre Carter. And there were several times Carter was battling in there and appeared to be just getting mugged. And then,
I think
another very
that's no small point. I mean, Andre Carter, we talked about, needed to have a good game because he's their threat about disrupting the quarterback and disrupting the backfield.
And he was almost non-existent. I mean, he was on the field. You could see him. You can't miss him, but his production was almost nil. And then there was another call in the second half that was extremely questionable. And I fall on the side of, it's a flag that should not have been thrown. It was the one time that Army had this was before the pick six. Army had a chance to stop Wake Forest. It was 3rd and long, and they threw a pass to the tight end. The pass was off the mark, and the defender was on the inside where to the ball side, looking back towards the ball. The defender was one of the Army linebackers, and he got flagged for pass interference, and it gave Wake Forest a first down when it should have been 4th down and long, and it would have forced Wake Forest to punt. And instead, it kept that drive alive, and they went on to score. Some could say, well, Army benefited from a penalty as well, and they did when Wake Forest had 12 men on the field on what appeared to be a 4th down stop. But that was obvious. That was quantifiable. There really were 12 players on the field. It was not the question of a man running on or off the field. They had 12 players lined up on the field, and they got flagged for it. And the refs missed it at first. They didn't even see it. They didn't call it. It had to be buzzed in, and they reviewed it to determine, oh, wow, look. And you know what? That's the referee's responsibility at every play is the back judge and the referee. They're supposed to count the players on offense and the player on defense before the snap of the ball. And so how in the world they missed it initially, I don't know. But, that's just the way it goes.
The world of TV replays helped Army in that situation, which was a big break. But it's one of those games that really a couple of plays could have had it, neck and neck final. Which would have been really interesting. But Army just couldn't make even a few plays on defense that would have made a difference in this one. And then the field goal fake that went bad was devastating.
I don't think anybody, even the most diehard Wake Forest fans, would have ever believed that Army's top 10 defense coming into this game would have had such a monumental collapse and inability to stop forward pass. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm almost positive Wake Forest had 7 touchdown plays of 40 yards or more. I'm almost positive of that. That's got to be a new world record, man. It was unbelievable. And there was a stretch in the second half where I think there was 3 or 4 touchdowns scored in the span of about 3 minutes. I mean, it was mind-boggling. I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah, there was the span we were talking about it that after the interception, Army scored in 2 plays, 71 yards, and then the first play from scrimmage when Wake got the ball back, Hartman got the pass to Williams at 5:16. So there were 3 touchdowns scored in 48 seconds. I mean, I couldn't keep my notebook up to date, for what was going on with that. And that's where, I don't know. I take the thoughts about basketball. Sometimes a coach has to slow a game down when it's getting out of control, and just that's the thing on defense. I'm a little disappointed Army couldn't make more adjustments in the second half on defense. But again, sometimes they just don't have the athletes that another school has, because good, really fast wide receivers will beat not so fast defensive backs.
Sure. And in that case, there's different ways to make adjustments. Adjustments can be in coverages, or adjustments can be in pressure packages. And Army didn't seem to make an adjustment on either. They didn't seem to make any adjustments on coverages. And if they did, they didn't help. And they absolutely, as the game progressed, they got less and less pressure on the quarterback, not more.
Well, they were just trying to keep from getting beat over their heads. And
absolutely.
They were playing, I guess 5 defensive backs.
At halftime, I felt good, because Army was getting the ball. And I'll tell you, I felt even better after Army's opening drive of the second half.
Yeah, they came out strong with that drive, tie it up.
I thought, my goodness, Army has made adjustments, and now we're going to see the adjustments they made on defense. And guess what? They, unlike last week when they held Wisconsin to 80 yards in the second half, Wake Forest absolutely exploded in the second half in this game. And it was like the fourth quarter of the Western Kentucky game, only the problem is that Wake Forest had a score up, and it went the entire game. And so there really
was a game Army had a pretty big lead in the Western Kentucky game. I think a 3-touchdown lead, and then that quarterback that was very good for Western Kentucky got it close with 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. But Army always kept the lead in that game, even though it got tight at the very end. So anyway, they're going to turn out the lights here in the stadium pretty soon. It was a great day of college football, 38,000 on hand, and Army's now got to regroup. I mean, the defense is going to need some confidence rebuilding. And Nate Woody's got a challenge. Air Force is playing very well this year. Army's got a week off that they wanted, and they're going to have to regroup. The offense is ready, but the defense now has got to see what its real self is. The defense that held Wisconsin to virtually nothing in the second half last week, or what happened today. It's going to take a while for the team to get over this one. This is, the record book's going to show 70-56 for a long time. Yeah.
And it's time for some soul searching. My confidence is not shaken in Nate Woody at all. I think this was an anomaly, and the real test of Nate Woody as a defensive coordinator, and his preparation of his players, and regain and helping them to regain their self-confidence after the blistering that happened today, will come to fruition in Dallas in 2 weeks. We'll see how, and obviously it's a completely different offensive style team in Air Force than what they played today. Quite frankly, I've never seen a team run that slow mesh read option like Wake Forest does. It's absolutely something I've never seen before. And it was really frustrating to watch how the quarterback and the running back would just stand there. And I kept waiting for someone to bust through the line and just tackle both of them as they just stood there waiting to make their read. But it just froze the defense every single time in their tracks. They didn't know what to do. And it's one of those times where, Army had 1 week to prepare. The offense really did their homework and did well. And I'm not saying that the defense didn't, but I will say that the prep team had to try to run an offense that many people have never seen run before, and could not duplicate, number one, the type of offense that Wake Forest was running, and number two, the type of athletes that Wake Forest was running those plays with. I mean, the prep team, don't fault them. I don't see how you could have duplicated that in practice, what Wake Forest brought to the field. And unless unless you're someone like Alabama that's got superior athletes at every single position at 3 deep,
Yeah.
you're going to have a real hard time making adjustments to that type of athleticism and that type of offense when you've never played against it, you've never seen that before, and it can be really frustrating. You could tell that it was just in their heads in the second half. They were beat already when they lined up. They just knew which way is it going to come from this time. But anyway, it's up to Nate Woody. I still have confidence in Nate. I think he's going to get it right for Air Force. And, but, we'll see in about 30 minutes. I think Air Force kicks off against San Diego State in about 30 minutes. Maybe it's an hour and a half. I got to check my clock here.
Okay,
but,
so have everybody.
San Diego State is undefeated, and we'll see how Air Force fares against them. But the real test for Army now, especially the defense, is can you get your head back in the game and be ready for Air Force and not let this drubbing embarrassment on the defensive side of the ball get into your head moving forward. And let's hope that Christian Anderson is okay as well, because
I asked Coach Munkin about him. He said he was back on the sideline throwing balls, but we'll see. I don't know. I don't know if it was the same injury to his shoulder that was irritated, or if he had something else happen. When I saw him on the field, they were working on his leg, I thought, but it's a distance. So Coach Munkin said he was back on the sideline. And,
well, that's a good sign then.
And then Tyree Tyler was back in the game after the couple of hits he took. So it's going to be, but it's going to be hard to keep Jabari Laws off the field, because he brings an extra element to the game. He's a precision passer. He's athletic, and we'll see what Coach Munkin wants to do. Because I was kind of curious what they would do if Christian Anderson is healthy, if he stays in the whole game. Or whether they work in the other players at certain, special situations. But that gets complicated to have multiple quarterbacks in one game. Nobody does it.
Well, I would if Christian Anderson is healthy and ready, he would be my primary and not do a rotational quarterback situation, because Christian Anderson, he's a dual threat and he's a better runner than Jabari Laws. If Christian Anderson's not ready, then you really don't have much choice, because Tyler is a better runner than Jabari Laws, but Jabari Laws clearly has got a lockdown laser in the way he's been throwing the ball of late. And, he did it last week and he did it this week. So we'll see. But I say if Christian Anderson is healthy and ready to go, he'll be the starter against Air Force. And he is a dual threat quarterback. He doesn't throw the ball as accurately as Jabari Laws, but he throws it accurate, and he has a high completion rate. So and in space, he's just a much better runner than Jabari, because Jabari Laws, since his knee injury, he's clearly lost a step. He's not the lightning quick dude that he was in 2019 before his knee injury. And I think that part of it could be mental, part of it could just be, that's how he's recovered, that he lost a step because of the injury. But,
he looked good today. And it's, Army's going to have kind of a 1-game season, because they want to retain the Commander-in-Chief trophy. And to do that, they've got to beat a very good Air Force team that's playing on all cylinders.
And I know we'll talk about this later this week, but what Army is going to have to do is they're going to have to do what they, by my estimation, they have not done since the Georgia State game. And that is, they need to put 4 quarters together on both sides of the ball against Air Force. They've got to play their A game on offense and defense without mistakes for 4 quarters. And, they can't have the offense show up and the defense have, 2 quarters of good play, 2 quarters of bad play. They can't have the defense show up and play lights out for 4 quarters and the offense can't move the ball. They're really going to have to put together their best game, start to finish, to beat Air Force in 2 weeks.
No doubt.
not turn the ball over, period. Not turn the ball over, period.
Well, it's going to be quite a challenge, to play Air Force down in Arlington, Texas at the Texas Rangers baseball park. I kind of missed the games out of Colorado Springs. I've been to the last three, and it's I think the on-campus games, you can't beat them with the all the traditions and the full corps of cadets, or the full corps of Air Force cadets. But it is what they decided to do, and it'll be interesting. I know that it's a lot of fans of the teams from Texas that'll want to go to the game, and it'll be a great atmosphere. A lot of alumni in the area, a lot of military bases in Texas that will send people. So it'll be a very interesting atmosphere. Well, Sam Houston, thanks for joining us for a couple of minutes. And disappointing day, but it was a good day of college football here at West Point. 38,000. Beautiful, it was a little overcast, but it was very crisp fall weather, and a lot of it wasn't boring, that's for sure. But unfortunately, the Wake Forest team scored 70 points, and it wasn't in basketball, so that was disappointing to see. And but the offense played well for Army, and good to see Jabari Laws and Isaiah Alston and a few others have terrific games, but it's got to work on both sides. Sam, we'll let you get back to your workout. I know you're working out your frustrations in the gym tonight, but we'll catch up with you with our next Huddle show on Monday night. Thanks for a few minutes.
Thank you, Ken.
Okay.
Beat Air Force.
Absolutely. That's Colonel Sam Houston, West Point 87. This is Ken Kraetzer for Sons of the American Legion Radio. We're at West Point, and we represent the 2 million veterans of the American Legion and the 330,000 members of the Sons of the American Legion serving America's veterans. Have a good evening.